Brian Tierney from Lean Made Simple. We're on day 2 of the 2-second Lean Summit, and the next panel discussion is hosted by Tom Hughes. There's 3 panelists, Derreck Holland, Lukas Holland and Hugh Carnaghan, 3 really experienced Lean thinkers, and it's a really interesting topic. The topic is the hardest thing about Lean. So there's some really honest conversation in here and lots of massive takeaways, and I really hope you enjoy.
I'm really excited to be standing in front of you again. I'm in a lot better form. Thanks for your understanding this morning. This is a real great subject. A bit of authenticity, which we've had all afternoon, I think we can say. We're talking about real Lean, not the comic book version. So our subject for the panel today is the hardest thing about Lean. So we got a wealth of talent on the stage here. I'll give you the introductions in a second. But yeah, we've easily got, of 2-second Lean even, I would say easily 15, 20 years, no actually 20 years of experience plus. And conventional Lean a lot longer. So we've got a mixture in the audience. We've got seasoned people that have been doing Lean in a relatively mature organization now. And we've got people that are relatively early in their Lean journey. So we wanted to give something for everyone to create some value for every participant. So we're going to have the hardest thing in 2 sections. The first will be, what was the hardest thing at the beginning and how did you overcome it? And then the second part will be, right, now that you're relatively mature in your Lean journey, what's the hardest thing today to keep things sustained and how are you dealing with that? Okay, so I'm just going to do some quick introductions. I got some notes on my phone here. This beautiful gentleman here is Derreck Holland, and he's always a how can I do it better guy. In 2010, he discovered a book called 2-Second Lean, and embracing its concepts to transform his business. His superpower is seeing and recognizing the waste in the process and figuring out creative solutions to solve those problems. So that's Derreck. Lukas, you already know. I don't know, Lukas, do we need to introduce you again?
I don't know.
I don't think we do. That's not value added. You should all know Lukas by now, shouldn't you? And now, the gentleman with the funkiest mustache in the Lean world. No questions, no hands down winner there. That's Hugh Carnaghan. And Hugh Carnaghan introduced Lean in his companies in China, and that was with some challenges. And now he has become a millionaire. Hey, I need to talk to you. A millionaire in 18 months with his real estate business, Greater Ozarks Realty. And his latest venture is Small Biz Rescue, where he is bringing Lean to small companies. So, enough of me. Guys, hardest thing, early days. Who wants to start?
I guess I'll go. I've always wanted the clean, neat, beautiful shop, but I suffer from being a little bit of a hoarder. And so the tough thing for me in the beginning was 3S'ing. We'd clean up one corner of the shop, and it would look beautiful, and then we'd realize that we had dispersed everything to the other 3 corners of the shop, and we said, we'll get to those next month. And so that was the tough one, and I had a neighbor next door that gave me some great advice, and he says, if you're going to hang on to stuff, it's got to have you got to have a plan of use for it in 12 months, and it has to have a value of X amount per square foot. And as soon as I realized that, that made it really easy to fill up the dumpster with all of the stuff. I realized that all of the mistakes that we had made, all of the inventory that we were never going to use, and some of it was tough. I had one time that told the guys, I said, there's $2,000 worth of doors here. I can't throw them out, but when I come back, I don't want to see them. And they had no problem throwing them in the dumpster. So that was the toughest thing for me in the beginning.
So Lukas, have you anything to speak to with that? Perhaps it's a different journey for you because you came into a relatively mature organization. What was your challenge?
Well, for me, I'm a trained engineer, and there's one thing that even though they teach you a lot in engineering school, they don't teach you anything about is dealing with people, the human factor. And it's the most important part. You know, I'm very mathematical, and I look at a process and I say, I think it should be done this way, and this is clearly the fastest way. But when you introduce people to doing it, I mean, what's the reason we're not all doing assembly lines? The human factor, it doesn't work, right? And so learning to work with people and understand what actually works for them and how to set up stations so that it works for everybody and everybody enjoys it. And then learning the patience to train people, and more importantly, the patience to get them to come up with ideas. Not say, hey, this could be like this. Instead, be like, what do you think? How can we improve this? Is it really the best it can be? And wait for them to give an answer and keep pushing and getting them to take ownership of it so they really enjoy it.
You know, like, that's talking about that in sort of abstract form. Do you have any, like, really good war stories where you really screwed up?
I mean, I probably have a lot. A lot of people hated me at first. Go for it, Paul.
Do you want the mic? Yeah, come on, Lucas. Tell us a screw up.
I mean, I butted heads with a lot of people. A lot of people hated me right at first. And, you know, I came in thinking, school taught me, place for everything. Everything is placed. Why isn't this like this? Why isn't that like that? And people would look at me like, you're crazy, dude.
Beautiful. Because I think, like, we've all pushed lean. I think that's it. I can certainly say before Paul's book and after Paul's book as well, because it's a hard habit to break, is this giving fish, as I've now started to call it, like, here's the obvious solution. Why can't you see it? And then you give the guy the fish and he throws the fish in the fucking dumpster. You come back, where's my fish? Do you know what I'm saying? So I think that's one of the things that I really learned, is that the best solution, technically, isn't always the best solution. So that is a single learning, and to consciously stop doing it was one of the things that I'm still, ask Jack in the audience, I still do it, but I'm hopefully doing it less. Hugh, what about you?
Man. So I was going to start by saying one of my biggest claims to fame, and I'm writing a book called Why You Fail the 2-Second Lean, by the way. But the opening of the book is my claim to fame, and it is that I was in my plant in China. Paul was there, Mommy-san was there, and it was cold. We had only gone through about a third of the factory, and we huddled up by these aluminum blast furnaces because we were cold and we were just warming up. And Paul says, Hugh, stop everything right now. Listen, I don't need to see anything else. I've been to 104 countries. I've been to thousands of manufacturing companies in the world. And this is the most fucked up place I have ever been. And you know what? It's your fault. He said it was my fault. So since then, that's a story for a different time. But
so where did you take that, Hugh, right? So he's told you you're the most effed up place in the whole world. How did you react?
I had a big shit-eating grin on my face. I was smiling from ear to ear. And I said, I know, Paul, isn't it great? There's nowhere to go but up. We were either going to go to business or it was going to get better. So, But with that, so the hardest thing at the beginning, and it's repeated over and over and over, and I've heard it many times in the audience from people that are there, is when you first implement 2-second lean, you get off a little bit off the ground and you hit this rut, and the rut is like a massive wall. And you're just sitting there, you're like, listen, I know lean is the way. You know, maybe some of your executive staff knows it's the way, but you can't implement it. You're like, why don't my people see it? Don't they just get it? We've gone over it again. It's been 2 years. It's been 3 years. And getting out of that rut is really what did it. And I wanted to provide as much value as I possibly can. And it's basically, it was me visiting Seating Matters, which changed the rut. So for 18 months, I fought my company. And I was just going to out-stubborn them. That was back when I was 27 years of age. I'm not that young anymore. So I needed a different way. And the takeaway I had after leaving Seating Matters was, if you think about this, each of you that are trying to implement lean, you know it really well, really, really well. Well, how the hell did that happen? You didn't just roll out of bed one day and be good at lean. It's because you're constantly teaching and training. And so I had done what many here have done, and I'm speaking directly to myself, by the way. I try to outsmart the system. Paul says do 3S every day, and then have a morning meeting. And I said, you know what? I'm going to outsmart everybody. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is going to be 3S time, and Tuesday, Thursday is going to be 3S. But you just shot yourself in the foot because lean's based on repetition. It's a framework that reaches into the bodies and the minds of your teammates, and it changes chemical processes, and it gives a dopamine and serotonin hit. That's what's happening at 3S. I come up with an idea for a problem, dopamine is released, and you want to go tackle it. Well then, when you accomplish it, small improvement, serotonin is released, and it leaves you wanting more dopamine. You're getting your people addicted to improvements, and they're leaving the first part of the day, right? It's morning meeting for a reason. And they're wanting to get into, they're wanting to get that dopamine hit again. So you've got them addicted to something that they can only get from your company, which is making their own life better, right? So the first part was, you just had to do it, put in the time, every single day. Morning meeting, 3S, for 3S first, then morning meeting for us, over and over and over and over and over. Now, I had already implemented that, and it still wasn't working until I came and hung out with Ryan, and then I somehow talked my way into staying out here one more time, and it was his same story with Michael.
What was the difference? What was like, this kid comes, like I think I said to somebody earlier on, does he ever say anything that isn't awesome? That's Ryan, by the way. So what was the learning that switched you from not great to much better?
The way most of us got there is because we constantly teach. And Paul says it, and everybody says it, lean is about developing people. Have them rotate through. I missed it this entire time. I kind of got it on the surface level, but I didn't have them teach. So I got one of my managers, I said, tomorrow you're going. Then the next day, Jim's going, then Bill's going. And then when you're done, it's going to transition to your team.
What do you mean going?
So I led morning meeting. Now tomorrow, Bill's going to lead morning meeting, and then Jim, and then and so on and so forth. And everybody's terrified, right? And especially in China, because it's a very different culture, and you should not stand out. They're trained from a young age to be that way. And it was the fact that you said, okay, I drew the line in the sand and made the decision. Everyone's going to go through it. Because when you train, that's why all of you are so good at lean, and your people can't see it, and they're throwing the fish in the dumpster. It's because you saw it, because you trained it the 1000th time. They've never trained it. So you're not getting through to them. So it was having them actually do it. That was what got us out of the rut. And in 1 month, we did more than we did in 18 months. It was incredible.
I know for me, in my lean epiphany, because of that automotive background and really could see waste, like I used to be in supplier development teams with Toyota, working with them, and really keenly being able to spot waste. As a senior leader in my following company, I'd be looking at a shop and going, how can they not see it, right? And this 2-second lean thing helped me to see. It's like blaming Stevie Wonder for walking into the telegraph pole. They haven't got the glasses to see it, and it's our job to give them the glasses to see it. Sorry, I'm not going to cure Stevie Wonder with a new pair of glasses. Excuse me. I'll rub some paste in his eye. But do you get me?
If you can see something during the morning meeting, have your team trained to that. If you're failing at one area, you constantly have this specific defect. Don't just bring it up during the morning meeting. Have them train it and go through it. That was the magic secret. And you know what? Paul said it 1,000,000 times. It's in the book.
And one of the things, just to point out, I picked up from this afternoon is the Japanese mentors here. They don't solve anybody's problems. There aren't any fish being given. They're just pointing out the opportunity. And then they leave it to the team to solve the problem. So we don't have any ownership issue with the fish in the trash can. Those guys do their own fishing. So, look, we're going to break and go to the today problem, if you guys are all right. We're going to give you guys more voice. I'd also like to say Start thinking of your questions, because I want to have 15 minutes at the end where we can ask questions. So start thinking about what questions you might want to ask about that 2 early days and later days hardest thing challenge. Lukas, I'm going to go with you first, my friend. Today at Fast Cap, he's sitting there, so like you're sitting down, so you don't need like very strong trousers. Let's hear what's the hardest thing at Fast Cap today about lean.
It's training and picking leaders. I still feel like I'm growing as a leader and still being trained as a leader. And I've been with Paul, 8+ years? And he's still training me. And, through COVID, we actually lost a couple leaders we weren't expecting to. And when all of a sudden you're left with this void that you weren't expecting to be left with, you got to pick someone. And you haven't been training them. They're not ready. And so you pick someone based on their personality, how much they're improving, who you think is going to be the best for the role, and then you throw them into that role. But you can't just throw them in and expect them to succeed. And you pick someone with a good personality, but they're not trained to train people. And so you want to be out there on the shop floor kind of hovering over them and making sure that they do things the right way. But that doesn't work, because then you're not letting them fail, like I said in my speech. And if they can't fail, they won't learn. But also, if you're not watching at all, they don't even know when they're failing. So what's the right amount of watching them and trying to coach them versus letting them fail? And also, if you're hovering over them, you're taking away the demeanor they need to build as a leader, and people don't respect them properly. So you got to let them go out and lead a little bit, but you also got to make sure they're doing that vision. And I've been struggling with that, but I'm really excited to go back, actually, after listening to Mr. Umemura and Mr. Amazawa and what they had to say, and how you should always talk to your top leaders just kind of on their own and outside of in front of everybody. And so watch, just stand there and observe quietly, let it all play out, and then go talk with them afterward.
Very good.
And I'm really excited to see how that plays out when I get back, because it's been a challenge.
It's like something I've seen time and again in my career is the best technical guy or girl gets promoted to be the manager because they're the best engineer especially, and it kills the poor person, because the best mechanical engineer is very often not a good manager of people. So we make poor selection choices.
Well, absolutely. And so, actually one of the guys we picked recently, not at all technical. And I actually think that's working better for me, and I'm learning from that to pick someone who has the skills I don't have as much, who's very well spoken, who commands respect, who when he starts talking, people just shut up and want to listen to him. But he has no technical skill. He doesn't know how to make any improvements. He doesn't know how to train people on improvements. But since I get that better as an engineer, maybe he'll end up being a better leader than me, because I can train him the stuff that I know, and he has the skills I don't have.
Super. Here, I must have screwed up with my time management, because I see we've only 5 minutes left. Derreck, I need to hear you talking, my friend.
My struggle has always been, I run a small company, and training and coaching people in an effective manner to grow them into leaders and see stuff. And as I realized yesterday, Jack and I have the same view on people. It's not my specialty, and so that's I'm better. I'm not great at a whole lot of things, and that is one of the things that I'm the least great at. And one of the great things about coming here is I realize now, every time I come to a summit, I realize how important that part is growing the people, and not the improvements, but improving the people.
Yeah. Hugh, do you have anything you would like to tell us about especially in the realty segment or your new venture, about sustainability of lean at a mature stage?
We started our company during COVID, and so it was decentralized. And so we were 100% Zoom the whole time, and it is just not the same culture. It was a big fight, big struggle. Takeaway from coming back here and being re-energized is I'm going back and I'm pulling everybody back into a single location instead of 5 or 3 satellite locations, just so everyone's one spot. But then also lean's gone stale a little bit at my company, because we're a very small team, maybe 7, 8 people. And when you hit it with that much repetition and you're constantly rotating through, it gets old. So we actually also tweaked it, and we took one day out of morning meeting. We still have the time safeguarded for it, but we made it Knowledge Mondays. So on Mondays, it's a continuing ed the entire time, where it's something completely out of left field. But we don't know how that'll work. You know, it's gone stale a bit, so it's how to re-engage people without losing it. I told the team, we can change the exercises, but we have to keep it working out every day. So I don't know where that'll take us, but that's what we figured out.
We struggle with the daily meeting, keeping it fresh too, and that's putting the effort into having a good meeting can be kind of tough sometimes.
I'll say to both of you, one thing that's really helped us with that is challenging people on their morning meetings to throw their own personality in there. So then even though it's the same meeting, everyone's getting to know the person, and they're becoming a better speaker too by throwing more in there. It's not just the same cookie cutter meeting every day. And so we give people an entire hour to prepare for their meeting, but it's got a keynote that's already ready to go. If you have any skill with a computer, you can do it in 15 minutes, no skill, 25. So you have that whole extra half hour or more to throw in personal touches and really make it your meeting, and that draws the whole team together really well.
Are they doing that during 3S time?
No, so we do it right after the morning meeting. So we do 3S time, morning meeting, and then right after that, whoever's meeting is the next day gets 1 hour to sit down and do it.
Our time is up. Our boss is here. You guys don't see the cards that come up. 5 minutes, time's up. So, yeah, look. Hey guys, thanks very much for making such a great panel. Thank you very much.